The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for the Guillotine Grapevine, a podcast for the land of 10,000 wrestlers. 10,000 wrestlers. Now, here's your host, award-winning wrestling broadcast journalist, Jason Bryant.
We're here at the PAV, as people would know it as the Sports Pavilion on the campus of the University of Minnesota prior to the Gophers match against second-ranked Penn State, depending on the poll, with Jeff Beshey, the publisher of The Guillotine, the greatest wrestling magazine about Minnesota wrestling, and maybe just the greatest wrestling magazine in the world.
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right, yeah. So, Jeff, we got
Thanks,
a lot to talk about here, as we're going to talk a little bit about the Gophers, not necessarily super timely here previewing, because by the time you're listening to this, the match will be over, and you'll hear post-match comments from Coach Brandon Eggum, a couple of the Gophers, and maybe even Cael Sanderson if he's got the time, and I've given him enough fruit pies to bribe him for an interview.
There you go.
There's another story, there's a story hole behind that. But, Jeff, busy time, Minnesota wrestling. Been a great first couple months of the season. We had a great Christmas tournament. We had the Clash just finishing up with all the hijinks that is the Clash, and then of course the Shakopee and Apple Valley with a great dual meet to kick off the year. Let's just generally your thoughts on how the first month and a half of the season has gone, because it's a great time to be a Minnesota wrestling fan.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, man, there's been a lot going on. Yeah, like you said, the Christmas tournament, the Clash. Between those things and, Christmas and getting ready with all that with the family and all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't stop. It's nonstop wrestling. Once December hits, nonstop wrestling.
When you go into a normal day, running the website and the magazine, if it doesn't stop for you, what is a typical wake-up Jeff Beshey Thursday morning after you've had a night full of dual meets on Wednesday, knowing that you've got, say, Penn State coming in to the U on a Friday?
Well, I get on the computer and start processing results.
I believe you probably get coffee, put some clothes on, maybe shower. I mean, no, you're just doing this all in the buff.
Yeah, right.
Good thing this is an audio show.
I already have clothes on, but coffee, yeah. I roll out of bed.
Are you a Caribou or a Starbucks guy?
I make my own.
Okay.
I do the bulletproof. You ever heard of the bulletproof coffee?
I've heard of it. I am not a partition.
Yeah.
Is it partaker?
Are you a coffee drinker?
I kind of am.
Okay.
I like a Caribou.
Okay, it's bulletproof is with butter. You add butter to it. I know it sounds weird until you try it.
I've heard butter is good, like as a creamer substitute. But
yeah. If you like cream, try butter. It's way better.
So
that's how I start off.
Here on the coffee hour on the Guillotine, this is talking all things about not wrestling. But with as we've talked about in the past shows about results that come in, and there's so much traffic on the website. What is one thing that you keep learning about the way results are reported and the way that you can distribute results, so people know right when they get up in the morning, they're going, okay, this is what I want to see, this is what I want to see, and this is where I want to see it.
Well, what comes to mind is how much track wrestling is kind of taken over the results of high school wrestling. It's been a little bit slower to catch on in Minnesota than some other states, I think. But just the fact that more teams are using track wrestling, actually they don't have to rely quite as much on the Guillotine. They can find the results right on track. But what we do is kind of compile them in a little bit more user-friendly way to look at the results. So,
because I'm still looking at the RSS. Every day is like just boom, here's the try, here's the try, here's the quad, here's the try, here's the dual meet. When we get to the college season, though, to shift gears a bit, as we record this on Friday, January 6th, Minnesota team's doing well. Augsburg returned back to the Division III National Duels Finals. Lost to Wartburg. They're going to be hosting the Knights in the Battle of the Bergs this year. St. Cloud State with a third National Duels title. Steve Costanzo doing a great job up in St. Cloud. And we're seeing the college wrestling world now. Minnesota with the great upset over Michigan, maybe not as down as people were expecting this year, even with the suspensions the first semester. College wrestling is hitting on all cylinders here in the state as well.
Yeah, even with all the drama, there's still
drama?
a lot of...
What drama?
What drama?
I don't know of any drama. What's this drama you speak of?
There's been a little bit of drama the last half year, but there's still a lot of great wrestling. If you can look past all the drama, you can still catch a lot of great wrestling.
Yeah, Ethan Lezak, great wrestling. He was the champion at 125 pounds off his... It's like, well, what's that line? Fresh off his recent suspension. Now, was it Major League or something? I don't know. But Lezak comes in, dominant on top, takes the Southern Scuffle title. Again, as you're listening to this, we'll find out how good he was with Nick Suriano, a very talented true freshman.
Coming up.
But, he looked good. Nick Wanzik has moved down to 165. Michael Krell's made the finals, got upset by Jacob Casper from Duke. But all in all, not a bad performance from the Gophers. Brett Favre had Jaden Cox on the ropes there for a bit. And then Jaden Cox did what Jaden Cox does. Right. He wins. But I think the Gopher fans have got to be looking at this going, okay, this is not as bad as we were expecting.
No, after last year, last year was considered a down year for the Gophers. But, like you said, there's a lot of good things that fans can look at from Brett Favre to Michael Krell's All-Americans coming back. Lezak, he's really jumped up in the rankings now. We'll see how he does against Suriano here in a few minutes. But even Mitch McKee, I think he's taken some lumps, but that kid is fun to watch. And I think he's got great potential to do some great things in the future.
Jump ahead. Let's talk a little bit about St. Cloud State. Their win over Wheeling Jesuit. Okay, this is an atypical opponent to have in the National Duels Finals. This took place at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in what was, I believe the official name of the event is the NWCA Multi-Divisional National Duels, presented by the U.S. Marine Corps and Theraworks, hosted by New Wave. Try writing that in a press release. At the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That being said...
Matt Mayhem, for
Matt
sure.
Mayhem, hashtag Matt Mayhem. So, Wheeling Jesuit is in its 4th year as a program, upset its way to the finals, and St. Cloud pretty much handled them. But a tough day for Brett Velazquez, the returning D2 champion, is winning in the 3rd period against Parkside, gets rode out. The kid, actually, he's losing by a point, but he's got riding time. The Parkside kid rides him out, so he loses there, and then loses in the final to the kid, Jacob Donahue, Wheeling Jesuit. So the returning champ loses 2 matches, and but it's not even a factor as St. Cloud wins 8 weights.
Handily,
handily. Wheeling Jesuit, like a 4th-year program. Sean Doyle doing a great job there, but we've brought this up time and time again. The fact that Steve Costanzo's presence in Division II wrestling in Minnesota has really changed the landscape. We've seen it affect recruiting at Augsburg and Mankato, and now, but we've also seen when Concordia's risen to the Ashes. St. John's had a couple good years. They're trying to rebuild. One cog kind of makes everything a domino effect, and I think Steve's presence here really can't be understated.
Yeah, between St. Cloud State, NDSU, SDSU, the recruiting game has really changed. The landscape has changed quite a bit here in the last few years with all those programs. All those programs are fighting for the same kids. Even the University of Minnesota is fighting for some of those same kids. So, there's the competition for recruits has just jumped pretty high.
Well, moving on to Division III side, Wartburg knocked off Augsburg 31-9. This is Wartburg's 7th straight National Duels Championship, Division III. They have been in the final 16 straight years. 10 times they've wrestled Augsburg.
Wow.
And so for Division III fans, that's a treat. First time we got to see Donnie Longendijk in the lineup this weekend, Lucas Jeske in the lineup this weekend. Of course, Owen Webster's been in the lineup since the start. But maybe you're seeing what we were talking about, Costanzo pulling those type of kids to St. Cloud. Well, so that's a good class coming in there with Jeske and Webster to Augsburg, and then Longendijk with his last semester. But Longendijk took a loss today. I mean, this is something that's not going to happen probably at the end of the year. He's getting his feet wet, but I mean, Wartburg and Augsburg battling 1 and 2 in Division III. That's the way people think it should be, especially here in Minnesota. Yeah,
I don't think Augsburg was expected to be this good this year, but with those recruits, like you said, they've really helped out. You get a couple wins out of those guys, and that'll do it for you.
What are you doing so far away from home?
I'm recording a show. Jack Childs from Drexel, retired coach from Drexel.
Retired, yeah.
He's in here. He's in the house, so we'll talk to him in a little bit.
All right, I'll be here.
Get interrupted by anybody here. That guy's awesome, by the way. He's the one that gave me that John Smith, Sergei Belaglazov portrait on my wall. Anyway, got sidetracked by one of the good men in college wrestling.
That's what happens sitting on press row here.
Well, we also don't have microphones like directionally in front of us. We're actually got these little lapel mics, so people just think that we're having a conversation, and they can just interrupt it, Jack. No, but as what we're looking through the end of the season, we've got Mr. Sanderson in town. We'll figure out how things wrap up at the end of the year. Maybe after the duel, Jeff, we'll get a couple comments from you before we get to the coaching staff. But that's how we're starting the first half of this episode here on the Guillotine Grapevine. So for Jeff Beshey, Jason Bryant, you're going to hear no break whatsoever. And the next thing you're going to hear is us probably talking about the match that you just watched. So we'll see you in a bit.
There with Penn State head wrestling coach Cael Sanderson after a pretty sound 33-6 victory over the host Gophers here in about 4-degree weather. When you get a team out for a Midwestern swing like this, you know the weather's going to be cold. Are there any extra preparations you do for like really cold weather?
Well, I tell them to bring a coat and shoes and socks and a hat, because some of them won't. But I like it. I think it's good. You know, they complain about the cold weather in State College, and we tell them it's mild. It's really not that cold. You have no idea what you're talking about, and then they figure out how smart their coaches are when they come out here and they freeze. So, but it's good. It's a good experience. You know, it comes with the territory of going into your opponent's ground. You know, I mean, it's their home turf. The cold weather just comes with it.
What are these road trips? What do you learn about your team on these road trips with these Friday, Sunday Big Ten duels that they can really chew a team up?
Well, you have to, love wrestling and competing as a team. Because we're getting ready for Nebraska now, who has a real solid team also. But you just you find out who loves wrestling, really. You don't go to the Big Ten Conference if you don't love wrestling.
Talk about three guys that love wrestling. They're the three guys that picked up the falls tonight with, starting out with Zane, then Nolf with the fall, and then Bo Nickel with the just pretty solid cradle. Pretty good cradle. I wonder where he learned it. But you got guys like that you say love wrestling. They like to put points on the board. And right there, 18 points in a Big Ten duel. Granted, Minnesota might be a little down this year, but that's something as a coach you look at and be like, well, I got a little room for error at the other weights.
Well, yeah, looking at this dual meet on paper, it was almost, I think, 5-5. It depends on whose rankings you're looking at, but there's some big matches, some heavyweight and even 25. You have an experienced kid there and true freshman who we obviously like a lot, but still a true freshman. So getting those bonus points going into the duel, especially that first half, looks like that could be a critical part of. And we've found that out here before and. National tournament, big dual meets, if you can get an extra point, you get it because it might be the difference.
There are two matches that stood out. One you win, one you lose. First we'll go at 97 where Matt McCutcheon looked like, the only points that he gave up were on his attack. He didn't give up any riding time or points from the top position. It looks like you guys can probably go to the drawing board on that tape and be like, okay, we think we can win this one.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Matt's good in all three positions, and he was in deep. Far very good at scrambling and coming out on top. So, McCutcheon just got to figure out how to finish that shot. But I thought he did a nice job, and he certainly goes away thinking he can win that match and believing he can win that match if and when we wrestle again.
Considering this is for a Minnesota show, what's one thing that when you come in and you're wrestling, or you're going to coach a guy that's going to wrestle a guy like Brett Favre's really good on top, he's coming off a real tight loss to Jaden Cox, he's probably got good confidence going himself, but what do you tell your athlete when you're on paper, you're not expected to win this match, it's not really expected to be close? Where does the coaching come for getting a guy up for a guy like Brett Favre?
Well, I think that just comes with, the years of preparation and just getting him good in all three positions and recognizing how to shut down a shot or an attack and being able to clear ties and just wrestle your style as much as you can. But Farr's great. He's it's hard not to like him. Even as an opposing coach, he's just a kid. He wrestles hard and tough kid, and obviously seems like a real good kid. But the preparation it's not. Right before the match, it's just every day of the year, every year of his career. And I think Matt, if he wasn't, I think he felt like he could win the match. He was close. He just, we just got to make some minor improvements. But Farr's going to go try to make some improvements too. So that's what makes it all fun.
What did you learn about Nick Suriano tonight?
I thought Nick looked great. I mean, on his feet, he went out and scored 3 takedowns in the first period, and that's a tricky opponent. And he was a little not confident on the bottom, but Lizak's unique. I mean, he's we're obviously familiar with him as a PA kid, and he was in our wrestling room training in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. I've wrestled him before. I mean, he's very unique and really good at what he does. And Nick got a chance to feel that tonight. 2 great kids that could probably beat about anybody in the country. So it was a great match.
What's now? Obviously, Nebraska's coming up next, but when you look at Minnesota on the schedule, you circle it because this is always a big duel. First time since 1998, Penn State's gotten a win. Is it good to kind of get that off your coaching back, or was that even a factor that you finally beat Minnesota in a dual meet as a coach at Penn State?
Those are things you don't really even think about. I mean, I remember all the talk about it after they beat us the last time. Probably guys like you and pointing it out, and we're like, oh wow, you don't realize those things if you're worried about those things. I mean, Minnesota. I was at Iowa State and we wrestled them all the time, so it's not. And I'm pretty good friends with a lot of the. Their staff, and Hartung was on our staff, so I've got a lot of respect for Minnesota and Jay Robinson and the program and Brandon Eggum. So it's not like, hey, we got to beat Minnesota. We just want to be the best we can be, and we want to win every match. And no one wants anything going back saying, well, hey, they haven't beat this team since the beginning of wrestling, kind of a deal. So I guess that's in that sense, it's nice to. To eliminate that part of it.
Lastly, obviously, certain recruiting situations you can and can't talk about based on NCAA rules, but when you're pulling kids from Minnesota with a program like the Gophers in this state, what does that say about the job you've done in the pro and the job that Penn State has done in the national wrestling scene to be able to say, I'm picking guys out of a nationally ranked program's backyard and bringing them to State College?
Well, there's so many good kids everywhere. There's so many good kids in Minnesota. There's so many good kids in Pennsylvania. So, our job is to find the kids that want to come to Penn State, that believe in our program and our system and our staff and that fit in well. And if they're from Minnesota, we're going to go after them. And Minnesota has kids from Pennsylvania on their team. So it's not I don't think it's really that big of a deal. It's just kind of finding the kids wherever they may be. And, we're real happy, obviously, with Hall coming to Penn State. And Berge signed his NLI, so, we can say that too. So, but Minnesota's a great state, great state, a lot of history, tough kids. They have some incredible clubs in the area here. They're just producing a lot of good kids, and when that happens, people are going to come in from all over the country and try to recruit them.
Lastly, you said that in the paper that Mark Hall was just a passenger on this trip. Gino wrestled pretty well. Actually, this whole season he's wrestled pretty well. When you're bringing a redshirting freshman on a trip like that at a weight class you're still having guys battle for, is some of that just to light the fire under the guys that are there, knowing, hey, if you guys slip, there's a guy that's proven he's already capable at the Division I level? I mean, I don't have any plan, but what's Mark on this trip is going to make people talk a little bit.
Well, Mark, he's dressed a few times, and anytime we have a road trip to somebody's home state, we're going to take them. So that's not like, hey, we're bringing Mark, and if you screw up, that's not how we coach. It was strictly just because this is where he's from, and we, our kids that we're going to be counting on in the future, we want to get them into this atmosphere and let them feel it and experience it and what it's like. And so this was a great trip to bring him.
Now here with Gophers head wrestling coach Brandon Eggum on the heels of maybe an eye-opening 33-6 loss, or was it an educational 33-6 loss? I mean, what's the first thing you say to your team after that performance?
Well, we knew going into it. Originally I think when we scheduled it, we talked with Penn State and they were going to the scuffle and then coming here, so we talked about trying to move it. But when we realized real close that they weren't going to be there, we knew this was going to be a real challenge because they were coming in fresh and we got in late Tuesday night. So as a staff, we didn't want to let our guys know it, but there's no doubt you could see from even Brett Farr and those guys, it was very, very tough. You try to manage where you have we have really Wednesday and Thursday, and we're competing on Friday to try to recover. And it was hard for those guys in a sport where you got to manage weight to try to somehow take a couple days off and get ready. And some of those guys out there had 8 matches alone in that tournament. So, you never want to make excuses, but there's no doubt we knew going into it this was going to be an exceptional challenge. And I thought, you could see it out there. But, we get another opportunity, to wrestle these guys in the Big Ten. Some of those guys, I think you turn those matches around. And so it was just, it was difficult from that standpoint, sitting there and watching, knowing the guys weren't really healthy. Some of the guys had weight and the different things, from just trying to do it in 2 days. It was too much.
What did you learn about this team tonight, whether good or bad?
About our team? Well, not a lot. We told them a couple things here is, regardless, a good story from Tim Hartung back when he was competing with me back in the day. He had the flu one time. He was wrestling the returning national champ, Lee Folhart, and they grinded it out and had very, very close matches. And the one thing I remember Tim saying is he was so sick that he said, I could never get through a practice. But he wrestled him, and he beats him in overtime. It was a big win for our team. And he basically said, the reason I did it was I knew that, potentially this could be the NCAA finals, and if I had the flu, I didn't feel great. Would I not wrestle? Of course I would. So it was a step to learn and to get out there. And so that's one of the things we talked to the guys about is you're never going to feel perfect. Obviously we had a lot of extra obstacles here, but regardless, you're going to have to find that way. And you may be injured, you may be sick, those things may happen, and you're going to have to get up and not be so concerned about how you feel, but just focus on the things that you can control, and that's within that 7 minutes out there on the mat.
With the return of several wrestlers to the lineup, clearing the drama and the suspensions and whatnot, how did you feel those guys performed, actually getting into the lineup for the first time, some of them coming off the scuffle, but in a dual meet situation?
Well, yeah, I kind of mentioned already. You look at him in the scuffle, you see Lezak. He pounds everybody out there, at the scuffle. It comes in here. Same thing. You get, too flat, no doubt about it. So it was really tough for him to get through where he wanted. Even at half speed, he gets on top, and you can see he's very, very strong there. But he's made good progress on his feet and on defensively, counter-scoring, and his offense. But it was really tough for him to get to that spot. So overall, these guys are good. Gillibon at 41, with Thorne getting in there is a very tough kid. Wrestles great. We knew that would be a tough match. And again, I thought Tommy did some good things, but again, it's clear and obvious, that they weren't at their full speed, so we just got to get them back. We got some time now to try to recover here, move past this. Penn State, no question about it. On top of that, those other obstacles, they're a great team, great coaches, great wrestlers, and just a really good team, so they're hard to compete against amidst those other things. So nothing against them. We just gotta try to recover here now, get our focus back, and get back to where we can get ready for the next team.
With Lezak, he's wrestling a true freshman, granted a very talented true freshman, takes top. That surprised nobody in the building. What do you think he learned from this situation, saying, okay, I did score a takedown the first time Soriano's been taken down all year, but he gave up those takedowns. We know he's a hammer on top. What's he got to do to close that gap? He basically just said this is a match that he felt, he could feel in the second period that he should have won. He said he felt a little flat at times, but it's just, for him, again, the whole team, you could see it when you're out there. I don't think it's a question. I had other Division I coaches calling me. They were out at the scuffle, and they were saying seems like an impossible feat going up against a great team like this. But at the end of the day, you got to be tough, So for those guys, they just, I guess the thing you take out of it is there's things you can learn, maybe see from the way some of their attacks and stuff, make those adjustments. But, it's a hard one. It's a hard one to, grasp right now, right afterwards. I just felt like our team wasn't completely where we expected them to be, or where we know they're capable, maybe is a better thing. It's probably what we expected. We knew it was a challenge. From a coaching perspective, having to drive the bus by yourself, and Luke's really close there with you, but what's this season been like for you? Having to drive the bus with everything that happened, and now you're the guy in charge here. Yeah, well, it's exciting. Obviously this isn't the way I intended it to go down, but from when I competed here as a Gopher, I loved it. I love this community. Just so many great people. I love this university. It was exciting. We want to give those same experience to the guys that are here now, and so I'm excited. Our guys have done a lot from the beginning of the season to where they're at, at this point, and so. I think they made some good growth, so now we just kind of got to step back and try to continue to focus and get better every week. So I'm excited for this opportunity. Jeff Beshey opening us up. Jack Childs interrupting Cael Sanderson and Brandon Eggum, bringing us home after the Gophers match on January 6th at the Sports Pavilion. But hey, we've got some milestones to break down. December 30th, 150 wins for Cole Jones of Grand Rapids. 100 wins for Cade Ludin of Thief River Falls. Take 100 degrees extra to keep you warm up there in the wintertime. It's from Thief River Falls, one of the nice little cold places here in the state of Minnesota. 100 wins for Jaron Matson of Kenyon Wanamingo and Pat McKee of STMA. Also picking up 100 wins on January 3rd, Peyton Mortensen. Congratulations to Jared Florell of Totino Grace right down the street from me as I sit here on the New Brighton Fridley line. Totino Grace, 150 wins. Mr. Florell, congratulations. 100 wins for Neil Schmalz of Mound West Donka and Tony Bemboon of Sauk Rapids Rice. There are your milestone winners. You want to check out the milestones at the Guillotine. Go to theguillotine.com. Go over to the high school tab. Scroll down to milestones. Each and every time there is a milestone of 200 wins, 175, 150, 125, 100. You get the idea. 75, 60, 50, and the pin milestones. Boom. Email milestones at theguillotine.com. Be sure to include the date, the milestone, your name, your team, your grade, your weight. And when you do all that, you will be on the Guillotine, and you might even make an appearance here on the Guillotine Grapevine. Want to also help out the Guillotine? Hit that subscription up, $20 a year. It is, as I said in the open with Jeff Beshey, I've covered wrestling around this country and around this world. Minnesota is now where I live. This is a place where I call home. I've got roots here, not roots, roots. I'm not calling it pop yet. It's still soda to me. But guess what? This is one of the greatest wrestling states in the country. It is the land of 10,000 wrestlers. And to support the great resource you have here in Minnesota with Jeff Beshey and his crew, his family, not just his wrestling family, but his real family, folks. This is a family effort, and $20 a year gets you an absolute steal of a deal when it comes to the Guillotine in its print form, and all of that effort that goes into theguillotine.com, the website, also helps this show, but mainly it helps you become a better Minnesota wrestling fan, because as Jeff always says, it's a great time to be a Minnesota wrestling fan, and the Guillotine is bar none one of the finest resources in all of wrestling, high school, college, whatever. Minnesota, you don't know how good you got it. Let's make sure you support the guys who make sure that you get your fix for wrestling. That's all I got for the Guillotine Grapevine this week. See ya! Oh, man. Wow. I'm going to go ice fishing. I'm going to finally catch me a walleye. Later on, we'll see you next time.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.